The Hunger Games is a pretty violent story, and with that comes a ton of deaths. After I made my video covering every death in Harry Potter, a lot of you asked me to do the same thing for the Hunger Games, and I became intrigued because there are so many characters that die. I went through every single Hunger Games book, so the prequel novel and the original trilogy, and I put together a list of every single death in those 4 books in chronological order. So the criteria for a death to be on this list are as follows. 1. If they were a tribute in any of the 3 main Hunger Games, so the 10th Hunger Games, the 74th Hunger Games, and the 75th Hunger Games. 2. The character who dies must either have a name, must be killed by somebody with a name, or their death must affect somebody with a name. And 3. If it unfolded in front of the reader. Now, just to be clear, I am basing this on the books, not the films. There are many differences, especially when it comes to the chronological order of when the death happened. Obviously, there are going to be spoilers for all 4 Hunger Games books, but if you have not read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes prequel novel, don't worry, I put sections in the video, so you can easily skip that part and not get spoilers. Now, let's get this video started. The first death dates all the way back to before the Hunger Games were even created. During what is called the Dark Days, when the capital and the districts were at war for the first time, Mrs. Snow, Coriolanus' mother, died while giving birth to her daughter. And that brings us to the next death. Snow's little sister died shortly after their mother. They were unable to get the help they needed due to the capital being in shambles thanks to the war. Next, we have Crassus Snow, Coriolanus' father. After being shipped off to fight in the war on the capital's behalf, he was shot down by a rebel bullet. Around that same time, Tigris, who was Snow's cousin, lost both their mother and father due to the rough times the Dark Days brought upon them. One of the more gruesome deaths was the maid that served the wealthy Crane family. She was killed, and Snow witnessed a man named Nero Price eating the leg off of her dead body. Moving past the Dark Days, we get to the era of the 10th Hunger Games. After 24 Capital students were assigned a tribute for that year's games, Arachne Crane, one of the chosen students, teased her tribute Brandy, putting the food through the bars only to pull it away at the last second. Brandy got mad and seized the knife that Arachne had used to cut the food, and Brandy took the knife to Arachne's throat. She then died as Snow held her in his arms. Then that brings us to the next death. Brandy was shot down by peacekeepers for this act, and she was the first tribute to be killed for the 10th Hunger Games before the games even started. And crazily enough, Brandy was not the only tribute to die before the game started. When the Capital students were giving their tributes a tour of the arena that they would fight in, a bomb went off, killing many people. Shrapnel went into both the District 6 male named Otto and the District 6 female named Ginny, killing them both instantly. Diana and Apollo Ring, twins that were among the Capital students, were also killed in the explosion. Meanwhile, both tributes from District 1, Fawcett and Velverine, tried to escape in the chaos, and they were both shot down by peacekeepers before they could get away. After death, both Fawcett and Velverine's bodies were part of the Ring twins' funeral, and their dead bodies were dragged by horses, punishment for their cowardly actions. The District 2 tributes had the same idea as the District 1 tributes. Sabine and Marcus tried to escape as well, and Marcus actually got away, but Sabine was not so lucky as she tried to leap over a wall, only to fall to her death. The District 9 tributes Panlo and Sheep were both injured in the explosion as well, and they survived initially, but their injuries eventually took their lives later that day, as the Capital refused to take them to the hospital even when advised to do so by a medical professional. The night before the games, Hai, the male tribute for District 5, died of an asthma attack. The Capital eventually caught Marcus, the District 2 tribute who had escaped in the explosion, and they strung him up by steel poles in the arena when the game started, still very much alive. When the games began, the District 7 female named Lamina took pity on him, and she drove an axe into his neck 3 times, taking Marcus out of his misery. The next to go was Dill, the District 11 female. After her body was convulsing all day and she was coughing up blood, she died of tuberculosis. The District 8 tribute named Bobbin had a very interesting death because he was the first murder victim of Coriolanus Snow. When Snow was forced to go into the arena to retrieve Sejanus, Bobbin attacked them with a knife. In defense, Snow seized the board and beat Bobbin so badly that the surrounding area was covered in blood. He dislodged one of his eyes and rendered his face so swollen and bruised that he was unrecognizable. Sol, the District 5 female, was the first victim of Day 2, and she was chased down and speared through her throat by Coral, the District 4 female. The District 12 male named Jessup was the next victim. He had contracted rabies from the zoo they had been locked up in before the games, and while going after Lucy Gray, Coriolanus Snow's tribute, he went into a frenzy and fell from the stands. He fell so hard that the sound of his bones breaking was audible for the audience. Lucy Gray then comforted Jessup as he died, telling him he could sleep now. The District 7 female Lamina was next to die. After badly injuring the knee of the District 4 male named Mizzen, the District 4 female named Coral came to his rescue and plunged her trident into Lamina's stomach, causing her to fall off the beam she was on and die on impact. The District 10 male named Tanner was killed that same day by the District 4 pair Mizzen and Coral. The two broke their alliance with Tanner, and Coral stabbed her trident in Tanner's back while Mizzen finished him off with a knife to his neck. The next day, Wovi, the District 8 female, died when she drank a bottle of water Lucy Gray had poisoned and left in a tunnel as a trap, and after just a few gulps of the water, she was dead. Gaius Breen was the next person to die, but he was not a tribute. He was the mentor for the District 9 tribute Panlo, and he had been badly injured in the explosion. Unlike his deceased tribute though, he was rushed to the hospital right away, and he lived a few extra days because of that, but he eventually died due to his injuries. As punishment for Breen's death, Dr. Gall, the game maker for that year, released vicious poisonous snakes into the arena, which led to a few deaths. First, there was the District 3 male named Kirk who was strangled to death by a snake. Then Coral, the female tribute for District 4, was attacked by a whole group of snakes, and though she tried to run, there were too many of them. They overwhelmed her and killed her. On the final day of the 10th Hunger Games, Mizzen was the first to go. When he was being chased by the reprogrammed drones courtesy of the District 3 tribute Tess Lee, Mizzen put pressure on his bad knee that Lamina had injured, and this made him fall and snap his neck. While Tess Lee was distracted by her drones killing Mizzen, Treach, the District 7 male, snuck up on her and brought his axe down on her head, killing her instantly. Treach then tried to ambush Lucy Gray, but she was able to avoid him. Then, as Treach swung his axe, Lucy Gray clung to him, which caught Treach by surprise, and she flung one of the surviving snakes from her pocket, which bit Treach in the neck and killed him. Now it was just down to Lucy Gray and Reaper, the District 11 male. Lucy Gray wore him out by making him chase her, and this forced him to drink from a puddle of water that she had poisoned. His body gave out, and after a while, Lucy Gray came out and felt his pulse, and realizing he was dead, Lucy Gray won the 10th Hunger Games. There were a number of deaths in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes after the Hunger Games, starting with the 3 people who Arlo Chance, a District 12 citizen, killed. He was trying to sabotage the coal production to hurt the capital, but he ended up killing 3 of his own citizens, resulting in his capture. Then that brings us to the next death, Arlo Chance. He was hung publicly at the hanging tree. This death is interesting because in the prequel novel, it's speculated that this is what the hanging tree song that Katniss's father sang to her was about. They strung up a man, being Arlo, they say who murdered 3, the 3 people in the mines. Then the lyrics, where the dead man called out for his love to flee. This matches up well because right before Arlo was killed, he called out to his love Lil, telling her to flee. Next is Mayfair Lip. She was the District 12 mayor's daughter. After stumbling upon a secretive meeting that included Billy Top, Spruce, and Sejanus Plinth, and also Snow and Lucy Gray who had just happened to be there at the worst time, Mayfair threatened to expose them, so Snow shot her in order to save his own skin. Moments later, we get to our next death. When Billy Top threatened to kill Lucy Gray, Spruce shot Billy dead. Next, we have Sejanus Plinth, who was one of the students chosen to mentor a tribute, but he ended up getting exiled just like Snow. The two had become best friends, but that did not stop Snow from betraying Sejanus. Sejanus thought he could trust Snow, and he told Coriolanus all about the rebel plot he was a part of to flee to the north and escape capital influence. While he was telling Snow this though, Snow used a Jabberjay to record Sejanus, which he then sent to the capital to expose his supposed best friend. This led to Sejanus being publicly hung, and his last words were him crying out for his mother. Next was Lil, who was the love of Arlo's who he told to flee. After Arlo's death, she had been taken captive, and after the rebels attempted to free her and failed to do so, she was hung alongside Sejanus. Spruce was the last of the rebels left, and he attempted to flee up north by himself, but he was eventually caught by peacekeepers who beat him badly, and he later died of his wounds. Next we have Lucy Gray. Now, this is an interesting one because Suzanne Collins, the author of the series, brilliantly left this open-ended. Snow chased her through the woods, his sick and twisted mind having convinced himself that her death was necessary and deserved. But after missing his shot, and after Lucy Gray used Mockingjays to cover her location, Snow shot wildly in all directions, hoping to hit her. She could have died, she could have escaped and spent the rest of her life in the forest, she could have gone to District 13, but it's unknown. What I love about this is this novel is from the point of view of Snow, so Collins made the reader have the same questions, doubts, and uncertainties that Snow had. Officially though, everybody in District 12 thought that Lucy Gray had been killed by the District 12 mayor, Mayor Lip, which he did as punishment for his daughter Mayfair's death, as he thought that Lucy Gray was the one to kill her. And the final death from the prequel novel is Casca Highbottom. Coriolanus and Highbottom had a long-time rivalry that dated all the way back to a feud that Snow's father had with Highbottom. One day when Coriolanus was in Highbottom's office, he threw out bottles of morphling, a drug that Highbottom was terribly addicted to. After Snow left, Highbottom immediately went into the trash and used the morphling, unaware that Snow had poisoned the bottles beforehand, Highbottom falling right into Snow's trap. Interestingly, this was the first of many people Snow would poison to rise to power over the next 60 years. Now we get to the deaths that took place in between the prequel novel and the original trilogy. When I was rereading all 4 books just for this video, I took notes on a number of deaths that I saw took place in between the two. First, we go to the second quarter Quell, or the 50th Hunger Games, the games that Haymitch was in. There were a ton of deaths in this, as there were double the amount of tributes than normal, but I'm going to follow the rules I established at the beginning of the video and only go over those that were killed by a character with a name. Mesa Lee Donner, the District 12 female, got her hands on a blowgun with 24 darts, and she dipped the darts in a poisonous river and then used that weapon to kill 2 tributes. When Haymitch was confronted by 3 career tributes, he stabbed 2 of them, but the 3rd career disarmed him and was about to stab him. Before he could though, Mesa Lee Donner shot a poisonous dart, killing the 3rd career instantly. Haymitch and Mesa Lee teamed up for a while, but when they went their separate ways, she was attacked by a large number of bright candy pink birds that used their sharp beaks to stab her throat repeatedly. Haymitch came running, but he was too late. She died with Haymitch beside her holding his hand. Next, we have the girl from District 1 who was in the final 2 with Haymitch. Trying to hit Haymitch, she tossed her axe over the edge of the cliff, and because it was the edge of the arena, it hit the force field and bounced back. Haymitch, knowing that it would do this, ducked, and the axe nailed the District 1 girl in the head, killing her instantly. The next death that took place in between the prequel novel and the original trilogy was Mr. Everdeen, Katniss's father. He was killed in a horrible mine explosion 5 years before the events of the first book. Mr. Hawthorne, Gale's father, was also killed in that explosion. Katniss later said that they were either vaporized or blown to bits in that explosion. During the 70th Hunger Games, we have the death of the District 4 male who was beheaded, and this happened right in front of Annie Cresta, a moment that caused her to basically go insane. This death made her suffer from mental instability, causing her to often close her eyes and cover her ears, laugh at unusual times, and fall into a stupor. Next, we have Titus, who was a male tribute from District 6. While in the arena a few years before the events of the first book, he became known for cannibalism. As soon as he made the kill, he would eat his victims. The game makers did not take kindly to that though, as it disturbed even the Capital audience, so they had to censor most of his kills. They also had to physically stun him after a kill, otherwise they could not clear the bodies of the dead tributes up before he ate them. So yeah, he's a pretty sick dude even by Capital standards. Titus was eventually killed by an avalanche in the arena, and it's speculated that the game makers did this on purpose to ensure that their victor was not this crazed lunatic. The next person to die was Lavinia's brother. Lavinia is better known as the Avox girl to fans, and when she and her brother were running for their lives from a Capital hovercraft, Katniss and Gale witnessed Lavinia get caught in a net, and her brother get hit by a spear attached to a cable, which killed him instantly, and they were both dragged up by the Capital hovercraft. And now we get to the events of the first Hunger Games book. And remember, this is based on the books, not the films. There are many differences. However, I am going to use pictures and clips from the films just to make the video more visually pleasing for you guys. First was the District 9 male. He was fighting over a backpack with Katniss until Clove threw a knife into his back. He coughed up blood on Katniss's face and then fell to the ground dead. In the book, that was the only death we read about for the bloodbath, but we were told of every tribute that died. The bloodbath took the District 3 female, the District 4 male, which was something that most did not expect, as career tributes normally make it through the first day, the District 5 male, both tributes from District 6 and 7, the District 8 male, both tributes from District 9 including the boy that coughed blood on Katniss, and the District 10 female. The next to die was the girl from District 8. The career tribute stabbed her and left her body, but after not hearing a cannon signaling her death, the career sent Peeta, who had just joined their group, to go back and finish her off. Glimmer was the next to die, and she was stung to death by tracker jackers after Katniss dropped a nest on the careers. And then the District 4 female died the same way as Glimmer, being stung to death. Next, we have the District 10 male. In the movie, he was killed in the bloodbath, but in the book, he survived until day 8, but was then killed by Cato and the career tributes. The District 3 male was the next to die. After the mines had destroyed all of the career supplies, courtesy of Katniss, Cato blamed the District 3 male who had set the mines up. The District 3 boy tried to run, but Cato caught him, put him in a headlock, and snapped his neck, killing him right away. Marvel was the next to go. After hitting Rue with the spear, Katniss shot an arrow in his neck, though in the film it was in his stomach, and he died of his wounds. Rue then died from the spear that Marvel hit her with, and she died in Katniss's arms as Katniss sang Rue to sleep. The next person to die was Clove, and in the book, she was killed by Thresh, who smashed a rock into her temple, cracking her skull, though in the movie, he just hit her head against the cornucopia. Clove then died in Cato's arms as he begged her to stay with him. Wanting to get revenge for Clove, Cato dropped everything to hunt Thresh down, and when he found him, he killed Thresh, all for Clove. Foxface was the next to die, and she killed herself by eating nightlock berries that were deadly poisonous, thinking they were okay because Peeta had gathered them. And the final death in the 74th Hunger Games was Cato. After Katniss shot his hand and Peeta pushed him off the cornucopia, Cato fell into the pack of mutts that were below. After what seemed like hours of Cato screaming, Katniss looked over the edge and saw a bloodied and desperate Cato who mouthed the word "please," begging Katniss to end his suffering, and Katniss did just that, shooting him in the head with an arrow. It's also worth mentioning that all of the dead tributes who did not make the bottom 3 had their bodies turned into the mutts that ultimately went after Katniss, Peeta, and Cato, and who ended up tearing Cato apart. And the final death for the first Hunger Games book is Seneca Crane, the game maker for the 74th Hunger Games. After he allowed Katniss and Peeta to make a fool of the games in the Capitol, Snow ordered Crane's death. In the book, it was unknown how he was killed, but the film showed that he was killed by the same nightlock berries that Katniss and Peeta almost used to commit suicide, something that might be my favorite addition from the Hunger Games film series. And now we get to the events of Catching Fire. The first 3 people to die were 3 District 11 citizens during the Victory Tour. We saw the first old man be shot by the Peacekeepers for praising Katniss, and after that, we heard 2 more gunshots that the book said were 2 more people dying. The first to die in the 3rd Quarter Quell, or the 75th Hunger Games, was the District 5 male. He died when Finnick threw his trident into his chest. And on top of the District 5 male, 7 other tributes died in the bloodbath as well, including the male morphling from District 6, Wolf and Cecilia from District 8, both tributes from District 9, the District 10 female, and Cedar from District 11. The death of Cecilia was especially sad because she had 3 children. Blight, the male tribute from District 7, died next. He was blinded by the blood rain, and when he couldn't see, he ran into the force field and was shot back. His heart had stopped, and no one there was able to resuscitate him. Mags was the next person to die, and she ran into the poisonous fog committing suicide so that Finnick could carry the badly injured Peeta instead of her, allowing all of them to escape. The female morphling also sacrificed her life to ensure Peeta's safety as she jumped in front of a monkey mutation, pushing Peeta out of the way. She was clawed in the chest, and she died in Peeta's arms. The District 5 female was killed by a tidal wave, courtesy of the arena that was a clock and had something bad happen every hour at a certain place, much like the fog that killed Mags and the blood rain that blinded Blight. While at the cornucopia, Wybris had her throat slit by the career tribute Gloss. And that brings us to our next death, as Katniss killed Gloss right after he killed Wybris, shooting an arrow at his head, though in the movie it was in his chest. Kashmir, Gloss's sister, then charged at Katniss, but Joanna stepped in and dug her axe into Kashmir's chest, killing her instantly. The District 10 male was the next to be killed, and he was killed by an unidentified mutt, again courtesy of the clock in the arena that sent out new horrors every hour. The District 11 male named Chaff entered the arena with the mission of protecting Peeta and Katniss at all costs, but unfortunately he could not find them until he found Peeta at the very end of the games. When he finally did find Peeta, he was killed moments later by Brutus. And again, that brings us to the next death. As payback for killing Chaff, Peeta killed Brutus in a fit of rage. And that's all the tributes that died in the third quarterquell. The next person to die was Cinna, who had been beaten and taken away before the game started. Afterwards, he was interrogated and beaten even more, but he refused to give anything about the rebellion up, so they killed him. As punishment for Katniss blowing up the arena and the rebels making their move, Snow bombed District 12, and this led to 9 known character deaths, including Mayor Undersea, his daughter and Katniss's friend Madge Undersea, Peeta's family, which included his 2 brothers and his 2 parents, Bristol, a friend and fellow coal miner of Gale, Ripper, the one-armed lady who owned the liquor stand in the Hob, and Ruba, the butcher of the district. Many more died, but those are the characters that we know about. Bonnie and Twill are next. They have a very interesting story that was not touched upon in the films. They were both from District 8, Twill being the teacher who taught Bonnie. District 8 had started to rebel, and as punishment, the Capitol bombed them, which made Bonnie lose her family and Twill lose her husband. So the two escaped District 8 wearing stolen Peacekeeper uniforms, and they made their way to the outskirts of District 12 where they met Katniss. They told her that they were making their way to District 13, which they believed was still there despite what the Capitol had told them. Fast forward to when Katniss was taken out of the arena and taken to District 13, she was sad to learn that neither Bonnie nor Twill made it there, and Katniss states that most likely means they died in the woods. And Bonnie and Twill's death brings us to the events of Mockingjay. Portia, Peeta's stylist, was the first death we really heard about in the final book, and she was executed by Snow on live TV alongside her prep team. Next we have Lavinia, or the Avox girl. She was locked up with Peeta in the Capitol, and Peeta watched as they tortured her to death. Peeta said that she was lucky though, because they used too much voltage and her heart stopped right away. Darius, who was the next person to die, was not as lucky. In Catching Fire, he was a young peacekeeper in 12. However, that changed when he tried to intervene at Gale's whipping. After that, he was made an Avox, meaning they cut his tongue out, and he worked alongside Lavinia until the two were captured and locked up with Peeta. He too was tortured in front of Peeta, and it took days to finish him off. They beat him, cut off body parts, and kept asking him questions, but obviously because he was an Avox, he could not speak. Peeta said he just made these horrible animal sounds. Peeta expanded on seeing this, saying that the Capitol did not want information from the two Avoxes. They just wanted Peeta to see them brutally torture them in front of him. League 2 was the next to lose her life. She was a soldier for the rebellion in District 13, and she went with Squad 451 into the Capitol. In the book, League 2 hit a pod that was mislabeled, and it released metal darts that hit her in the head, killing her. Boggs was the next to lose his life. He was the leader of Squad 451, and he accidentally stepped back on a pod that blew his legs off. Before he died, he transferred the hollow over to Katniss's control, then died from blood loss. Mitchell was the next person to die and was also part of Squad 451. When Peeta was triggered by pods exploding, he tried to attack Katniss but was stopped when Mitchell tackled him. Peeta pushed him off though, causing Mitchell to land on a pod that put him in a barbed wire net, and unable to move, he was overtaken by the black tar coming their way, though he probably would have died anyway from the barbed wire net. Masala, a member of the TV crew filming Squad 451, died while running from the lizard mutts that were after them. While running, he hit a pod that trapped him in a wide shaft of golden light that radiated from the ceiling to the floor. He was still as a statue, and eventually the still Masala had his flesh melt off his body like candle wax. League 1 was the next to die, as she held off the lizard mutations that were after them while everybody else escaped. Then alongside her was Jackson, and she too was killed by the mutts as she held them off. Holmes, another member of Squad 451, was chased down by the lizard mutts and was killed. His teammate Castor shared the same fate, as he too was chased down by the mutts and he lost his life. Finnick Odair was another victim of the mutts, but unfortunately for him, they did not kill him. He was in agony as they tore him apart, and Katniss, seeing this, self-destructed the hollow and dropped it down to where Finnick and the mutts were, killing all of them instantly and taking Finnick out of his misery. Primrose Everdeen, Katniss' sister, was the next person to die. After a bomb had landed in a group of children, Prim ran in as a medic to help them. But then, a second bomb that nobody knew about went off, killing Prim. We later find out that Coin was behind the bombs, using a weapon that Beetee and Gale had created. The next person to die was Alma Coin, the president of District 13. At Snow's execution, Katniss shot Coin instead of Snow, payback for her sister's death that Katniss knew Coin was behind. And finally, we have Coriolanus Snow. After Coin's death, Snow laughed hysterically, spitting blood everywhere from the sores in his mouth that he got from poisoning so many people over the years. Collins left it up to the reader to decide how he died, the two options being him choking to death on his own blood, or him being killed by the crowd that swarmed him. And there you have it, every single death from all 4 Hunger Games books. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just here to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed to the left. If you want to be featured on the next video, plus get a bunch of other things like previews and behind the scenes, become a patron today. Also, you can follow me on social media to see more of my personal life, like my cute dog Loki. I also do some fun stuff on TikTok and Twitter that I think you guys would really enjoy if you enjoy what I do here on this channel. As always, if you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great Movie Flame videos on the way.